Hello, here's our lesson on finding the main idea for our reading class. You should have looked in files for the handout. I think they're listed as main idea 1 and main idea 2. So let's start with the first page that is the front, main idea 1. So finding the main idea in a passage or a paragraph is one of the most important and basic skills that we do when we read. It's a main comprehension skill. So comprehension means understanding. How do we show that we understand what we read? How do we show that we comprehend what we read? So because it's such a central comprehension skill, lots of questions on tests like the GED and the HiSET are asked about finding the main idea. Main idea questions have different ways of being presented. A question might just say, which of these answers represents the main idea of this passage? Or it may say, which of these answers represents the author's main ideas, or the main thing the author wants to say. A main idea question could also be, which of these is the best title for this passage? Because the title of a passage should indicate the main thing that it's about. So main idea questions come in lots of different forms on language arts tests, like the GED and the HiSET. There are lots of ways of finding the main idea. I find that we can be misled into thinking we know the main idea of a passage by assuming that the first sentence, where we usually think the topic sentence of a paragraph is, assuming that that first sentence identifies the main idea. But this is not always, in fact, it's often not the case. So what I found to do that makes sense to me and works for lots of students is to take two steps to finding the main idea of a passage or a paragraph. And they're written on the top of page 1, main idea 1. It says, first we're going to ask ourselves the question, in 1 or 2 words, what's the subject or the topic of this passage? Just how can we say in 1 or 2 words, or maybe even a short phrase, what the subject is of this passage, what the topic is? Subject and topic mean the same thing here. And then once we find the subject or topic, then we want to ask ourselves, what is it the writer wants me to know or understand about this topic, about this subject? Then we can take what we learn from that and try to formulate that into a sentence. And that sentence should be a statement of the main idea. The main idea of a passage is always going to be stated as a sentence, not as a single word. That's a subject, but not a main idea. All right, so now we're going to go to main idea page 2. Start at the back, because during the winter quarter, we use this handout. Also, we use some of the passages on the front. So let's try using the passages on the back. So you can see that along the left-hand side of your form are paragraphs. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down at the bottom again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the right-hand side are some answers. I want us, for the time being, to ignore those answers. So it would be helpful if you would take your paper and fold it in half. So we don't see the side with the answers and we're not distracted by them. All right? So fold the paper in half so we don't see the answers on the other side. All right? Okay, so let's start down at the, let's start in the section at the top, number 2 at the top, that begins mice and rats in zoos. Okay, you see that? I'm going to read it out loud, and as I read it, I want you to think how we would say in a word or two what the subject is of this passage. All right? Mice and rats in zoos eat other animals' food, and they also carry diseases. The zoo in Birmingham, Alabama, has found an answer to this problem. People got 4 cats at the animal shelter and brought them to the zoo. The cats get rid of the mice and rats, and then they have a good home. Okay, so if we just think in a word or two, what could we say about, what could we say is the topic of this passage? So it's about, we could say, it's about mice and rats carrying diseases. Mice and rats carrying diseases. If we say that's the topic, right? And now, number 2, what does the author want us to know or understand about mice and rats carrying diseases? Now, think, there are lots of things that a paragraph about mice and rats carrying diseases could be. It could be a paragraph about what kind of diseases. Mice and rats carry diseases. What kind of diseases? They carry this disease and this disease and this disease, right? That's one paragraph that could be about mice and rats carrying diseases. Another paragraph that could be about mice and rats carrying diseases could be mice and rats carry diseases. Those diseases are communicable to humans. Humans can get this disease from them, they can get that disease from them, they can get that disease from them. Okay? So another paragraph that could be about mice and rats carrying diseases is what kind of mice or what kind of rats carry which kind of diseases. Sorry about that. So lots of paragraphs that could be written about this subject or topic, mice and rats carry diseases. When we think about this passage, what is it that this writer wants us to know or understand about mice and rats carrying diseases? What the writer wants us to understand is one solution that has been found to that. And that solution is bringing cats in to catch the mice and rats. Okay? Actually, they don't have to catch the mice and rats. The cats only have to be present and the mice and rats leave. Okay, so if we take those 2 things, mice and rats carry diseases, and one solution to that is bringing in cats. Now we just try to formulate a sentence about that. What's the main idea of this passage? It's about how using cats can be a solution to mice and rats carrying diseases. And if we wrote that, that would be a good statement of the main idea, right? Okay. All right? Okay, let's try another one. Look down, for this one, look at the 5 at the bottom and find number 4 that says plant experts in Bolivia. All right? Okay, I'll read it. Think about what, in a word or two, what you think the subject or topic of this paragraph is. Plant experts in Bolivia have found some odd potato plants. The potato leaves make a sticky glue. Insects that walk on the plant get caught and starve. Scientists want to breed more potatoes with these sticky leaves. Farmers would be able to grow potatoes and not have to spray their plants with chemicals to get rid of harmful insects. All right? Okay, so in a word or two, what could we say this paragraph is about? And we might say it's about some potato plants that grow in Bolivia. Potato plants that grow in Bolivia. Just a couple of words, a phrase, potato plants that grow in Bolivia. All right, that's the subject or topic. Now, what does the writer, step 2, what does the writer want us to know or understand about these potato plants that grow in Bolivia? So I'll give you a minute to think for yourself. What is it that the writer wants us to know or understand about these sticky potato plants that grow in Bolivia? Okay? Okay, so what about something like these sticky potato plants can be a solution to farmers to help them control insects. These sticky potato plants can be a solution to farmers, help them grow potatoes. All right? Now, it doesn't have all the details in there about how that happens, because remember, the statement of a main idea is just the main idea. It's not all the details about it. Now, once we have a main idea like that, we want to double check to make sure it's the main idea. If it's the main idea of the passage, then everything in the passage should be about that. Everything in the passage should be relatable back to that. So let's take a look. If we look at the first sentence, plant experts have found some odd potato plants. Okay, potato plants may serve as a solution. These sticky potato plants may serve as a solution. So that sentence matches the main idea. The potato leaves make a sticky glue. Insects that walk on the plants get stuck and starve. That's about how the sticky potato plants might help the farmers. Scientists want to breed more potatoes with these sticky leaves. Farmers would be able to grow potatoes and not have to spray their plants with chemicals. Those sentences refer back to the main idea. Okay, let's try that by going back to the number 1 that we did up above. What if we said, as we did, that the subject was mice and rats carrying diseases, all right? And what if we said that that was the main idea in the passage, not the subject or topic, rats and mice, but that it was the main idea? Okay? Now, if we look at the other sentences in that paragraph, how do people getting cats at animal shelters and bringing them to the zoo, that sentence, what does that have to do if we think with what we think of as the main idea, mice and rats carry diseases? They don't seem connected, right? But if the main idea is, as we said, that cats may provide a solution to mice and rats carrying diseases, now that sentence is connected to the main idea. Okay? Now, again, because the first sentence is mice and rats in zoos may carry diseases, they eat other animals' food and they carry diseases, we may think that this paragraph, if we think that the first sentence always states the main idea, then we could be misled into thinking that the main idea was something like that. Mice and rats eat others' food and carry diseases. Now, on a well-written language arts test, if we're being asked what the main idea is, one of the answers would be that. But it wouldn't be right, because this paragraph is not about mice and rats carrying diseases. It's about how cats may be a solution to mice and rats carrying diseases. Okay, do you see the distinction? All right. Same thing, well, it doesn't, the number 2 that we looked at below about the potato plants, again, if we say plant experts in Bolivia have found some odd potato plants, we could have lots of paragraphs about that. It could be a paragraph about where they found the potato plants. It could be a paragraph about the history of the potato plants in Bolivia. You know, it could be about why these potato plants are odd. Why are they different? And actually, part of the paragraph is about that. It says they have sticky leaves. But the main idea here is that those sticky potato plants may provide a solution to farmers, may help farmers. Okay, so if we just look at the first sentence and think that's the main idea, then there are other sentences in here that aren't going to fit that main idea. The main idea has to be limited to just the main idea, just the main point, but it also has to be specific enough to allow for any of the sentences in the paragraph to be there and relate back to that main idea. Okay? Now, we could write a topic sentence for this paragraph that would state the main idea. It would say something like, plant experts in Bolivia have found an odd potato plant that helps farmers, or that provides a solution to farmers who have lots of insects that eat their plants. We could write a sentence at the beginning of the paragraph that would say that, and it would be a topic sentence, and it would state the main idea. But this paragraph does not begin with a sentence like that. Also, going back to number 2 at the top about the mice and rats, we could write a topic sentence that would state the main idea. We could start this paragraph with something like, cats provide a solution to zoos that have a problem with mice and rats eating animals' foods and carrying diseases. That would be a topic sentence. We could then have the rest of the paragraph. And in that case, the topic sentence would state the main idea. But in this paragraph, the topic sentence doesn't state the main idea. All right? All right, let's try another one. Let's see. Let's go down to the very bottom one, the one about aluminum. All right? Okay. Aluminum used to be a very expensive metal. It cost more than $500 a pound. But in 1886, 2 scientists discovered a way to make the metal more cheaply. 2 years later, another scientist refined the process even more. Then the price of the metal was less than 30 cents a pound. Today, aluminum is cheap to make, but even cheaper to recycle. All right? Now, how do we say, let's do our 2 steps. How do we say, in just a word or two or a short phrase, what the subject or topic is of this paragraph? And here we could just say aluminum, right? It's about aluminum. It's very easy. Number 2, how do we, what is it the author wants us to know or understand about aluminum? In this case, what the author wants us to know or understand is how the price has dropped, how it started out as fairly expensive and has gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper over time. So now we can combine those 2 ideas into a statement. Aluminum originally was a very expensive metal, but it's grown cheaper and less expensive and less expensive, or cheaper and cheaper over time. Now, if we take that statement and try it out, see if all the sentences in the paragraph refer back to that. So, aluminum used to be a very expensive metal. That relates back to our topic sentence. It cost more than $500 a pound, but in 1886, 2 scientists discovered a way to make the metal more cheaply. So now it's getting cheaper. Our topic sentence, our main idea covers that. 2 years later, another scientist refined the process even more. Then it was less than 30 cents a pound. Those sentences still are completely related to our main idea statement. And today it's even cheaper to make and cheaper to recycle. So all of the sentences in the paragraph are relatable, refer back, or are covered by our main idea. And again, we could write a topic sentence for this paragraph that stated that main idea. You know, aluminum used to be a very expensive metal, but it's grown less and less expensive over the years. Then aluminum used to be very expensive. It cost more than $500. We could just go on with the paragraph. But this paragraph does not have a topic sentence like that. If we thought the first sentence was the topic sentence, aluminum used to be a very expensive metal, then if that were the main idea, then we would have to have every sentence in the paragraph be about how expensive it was, why it was expensive, how expensive it was, what kind of problems that caused. I don't know, like not we would never get to the idea that it grows cheaper and cheaper and cheaper if we thought that first sentence was the main idea. Okay, I think we have time for one more. All right, go on the bottom 5, go to number 2 about the Maasai of East Africa. The Maasai of East Africa. The Maasai of East Africa raise cattle for a living. Very little grain is raised in the area, so people depend on the cattle for food. Most people drink a gallon of milk a day, and beef is a popular meat. Cow's blood is also used as food. It doesn't spoil, it provides protein and minerals, and it can be taken from cows while traveling. Okay? All right, if we say, step 1, in a word or two, what is this paragraph about? What's the subject or topic? See, if we just jump right to what's the main idea, it's kind of too much to process all at once. Taking the 2 steps gets us more reliably to a main idea. Okay? So, if we say, what is the subject or topic here? It's about the cattle that the Maasai of East Africa raise. The cattle that the Maasai of East Africa raise. So, a short phrase. Notice it's not a sentence. If I just say, the cattle that the Maasai raise, that's not a sentence. That's just a subject or a topic. Okay? Now, step 2, what does the writer want us to know or understand about the cattle that the Maasai of East Africa raise? The writer wants us to know that that they are a good food source for the Maasai, that they get lots of different foods out of the cattle. Okay, so let's put those ideas together into a main idea statement. And we can say, the cattle that the Maasai of East Africa raise provide a very good food source for them. Okay, so there's a statement of the main idea. Now let's think about whether each sentence in here can come from that main idea, whether each sentence can relate back to that main idea. If there's a sentence in here that doesn't relate back to that main idea, then it doesn't either it doesn't belong in that paragraph, or we don't have the right main idea. Okay, so Maasai of East Africa raise cattle for a living. Very little grain is raised in the area, so the people depend on the cattle for food. We're thinking our statement is the cattle provide a good food source, right? So that relates back. Most people drink a gallon of milk a day, and beef is a popular meat. Those are the foods that come from the cattle. Cow's blood is also used. It doesn't spoil, and blah, blah, blah. That also comes from the main idea. Okay, so let's just go back and think about what we want to take away from this lesson. Number 1, finding the main idea. We shouldn't try to do it just in one leap when we read a paragraph or a passage, because we're likely to be misled. So let's do it in 2 steps. Number 1, ask ourselves, what's the subject or topic? Just in a word or a phrase, what's the subject or topic? Now, number 2, what does the writer want me to know or understand about this subject or topic? Take those 2 ideas, try to make a sentence out of them. That sentence is a statement of the main idea. Now, go back and check all the sentences in the paragraph. Do they all come from that main idea? Do they all relate to that main idea? Okay? All right. Now, if you want, you can look at the answers on the other half of the page and see how they relate. Some of them relate well, some of them don't. They're not all very well written answers to this question. So don't worry about that. Just think about the process that we discussed here. Okay? All right. Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.